More big spending with money we don't have from our elected officials. Now $26 billion in handouts to the states. The White House is hoping to save government union jobs that are on the chopping block because so many state finances are in such disarray. The catch is the states don't get to decide how the money is spent. Washington will. Giving us his view of that, as well as his view of the war and the way it's being waged, Democratic Pennsylvania Governor Ed Rendell. Governor, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Good evening, Judge.
Do you want that money from Washington for Pennsylvania regardless of the strings that are attached to it, Governor?
Yeah, we need it, and most states do, regardless of the strings. And just let me just say a couple of quick things. Number one, it is paid for. This is the difference between the vote this time and the vote previously. The reason Senator Collins and Senator Snowe voted for cloture was because this bill is paid for, so it doesn't add to the deficit. But number two, when you say there are strings attached for it, it means that if we take the money to extend the Medicaid relief from the stimulus, we have to continue to not turn away any people who are eligible. The second category is educationally, if we take that money, we can't reduce education spending.
How?
And the federal government has always had the right to put strings on the money they give us.
Well,
I'll give you a perfect example. Like highway funding, Judge. Highway funding, we get highway funding, all the states, and then the federal government says to us, you must have a speed limit of 55 miles an hour. But you don't have to have it, states. If you don't want that speed limit, then you don't have to take the federal money.
I want to suggest, Governor, that Ed Rendell knows more about what the state of Pennsylvania needs and wants than bureaucrats in Washington. And you would rather be able to spend that money how you see fit.
And you're correct. However, the fact that the federal government wants to put strings on it to achieve their policy goals is understandable. When we give money to the counties, for example...
You put the strings on it as well.
Absolutely, and that's our right to do so.
How is this paid for, Governor? I mean, they're going to borrow the $26 billion or print it, and then they're going to tax people in the future. That's not paying for it.
No, it's paid for. There's a rescission bill that goes along with this, Judge, and it rescinds $26 billion worth of spending, including, for example, the controversial rescission of some food stamps money. So a lot of it comes from money that's unspent in the stimulus. There was a whole series of rescissions that do pay for this bill, and it doesn't add to the deficit. That's the good news. I agree with you that it would be better if locals could exercise their discretion. But again, a local governor is free to decline this money. We're not forced to take it.
I want to switch gears before we go. You startled the Democratic world earlier this week when you said President Obama may be confronted with an anti-war challenger from the left when he seeks renomination in 2 years. Who would that be? How effective might this challenge be?
I don't think it'll be a serious challenge. I think the only one who could even consider doing it would be someone like a Howard Dean, but he's said absolutely not. And I think it won't be a serious challenger. It'll be a fringe challenger. Because, look, I agree with you, by the way. The comment you made was right on. We can't keep spending money nation building and fighting wars where the people over there don't really want us. Do you know, Judge, we spend approximately $800 billion a year on our military. Do you know what the second highest spending country in the world is? And do you know how much they spend? It's China, and they spend $80 billion. They only spend $80 billion, 1/10 of what we spend. And we're spending money to rebuild the Afghani and Iraqi infrastructure. We're not spending any money to rebuild the U.S. infrastructure.
You are sounding a little bit like my libertarian friends, Governor.
I agree. That has got to come to an end. The reason I don't think there'll be a serious challenge to the president is the president has set timelines. And unless he deviates from those timelines, I don't think you'll see a serious challenge.
Governor Rendell, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us on Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge. Thanks for having us on.
Today, the United Nations is reporting that civilian casualties in Afghanistan rose by nearly 1/3 in the first half of this year. That increase driven mainly by a resurgence of attacks from the Taliban. All the more reason to leave Afghanistan right now, says antiwar.com editor Justin Raimondo. But former intelligence agent and Fox contributor Wayne Simmons sees it very differently. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you back to Freedom Watch. Wayne, to you first. Is it possible to construct a functioning Western-style democracy in Afghanistan?
Probably not, Judge. Good afternoon. I would suggest to you the only thing that we can really do there is, and you've heard me, you and I have had conversations about it before, and that is The only thing this enemy understands is absolute and total power. And that power can only be delivered by the United States. And there must be no doubt in the mind of the enemy that it is coming. Therefore, when you have the warlords, the many tens of warlords in Afghanistan, they must know that we will protect them, but they also must know that if they provide safe harbor, that we will be there and absolutely destroy them if they allow safe harbor.
Justin, if Wayne is correct, then I guess we can never leave Afghanistan, because as soon as we do, the bad guys will come back.
That's right. And wherever we think Al-Qaeda is, we have to chase them across the world. Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, wherever. So we are eternally damned. You know, it's like Sisyphus rolling the rock up the hill, and it never ends.
And excuse me, Judge, and that's spoken by a guy who I suggest to you has never picked up a weapon.
It doesn't matter. He's entitled to an opinion just like you are, which is why you're both here. How can we get out of Afghanistan? Hang on, Wayne. How can we get out of Afghanistan if we know that a disaster will occur as soon as we leave? Or stated differently, are we stuck there forever?
Great question, Judge. Look, we're still in Japan. We're still in Germany. We're still around the world, and things are fine. The reason that we can...
Things are fine?
Things
Let him
will
finish,
be
Justin.
fine.
Go ahead, Wayne. Go ahead, Wayne.
Look. We need special ops. We need small special ops units to go in. We don't need to be there with 300,000 guys for eternity. The bottom line is we keep our eyes on them. They help us. We can turn the entire country of Afghanistan into an intelligence network. When the bad guys show up, they tell us we show up and we kill the bad guys.
Justin, what happens when the American public gets tired of the war? There are 100 Democrats who voted no. There are many, many Republicans who now acknowledge Iraq was a mistake. They may soon think Afghanistan is a mistake. Will things be better once we leave or worse, Justin?
I mean, Ann Coulter is now saying, let's get out of Afghanistan. So it can't be too far when most conservatives are, going to start realizing that this is Obama's war. I mean, it's a nation-building war. We have to create this, functioning, like democracy. We have to build their roads, their hospitals, their schools. But what about America? Our schools are crumbling. Our homes, are going down in value. We are facing a great economic depression. And yet Congress just voted $37 billion for the war in Afghanistan.
Wayne, what happens when the Congress decides not to fund the war anymore? What do we do?
Well, then we come home, Judge. I mean, this is really not complicated. It's not rocket science. Look, either we go in and we finish,
we're still in Germany.
We go in and we finish the job. We go in and we finish the job, or we come home.
And when is that?
Now, the option is, Judge, the option is if we don't do the job, then they have safe haven, and we will have another 9/11
Before
or
I let
greater.
you go, just a brief answer from both. Just a brief answer from both of you. Wayne, to you first. Should we attack Iran before it attacks Israel or attacks us?
We're 5 years late. The answer is yes, we're 5 years overdue. I said this 5 or 6 years ago. I actually wrote it in Human Events that this should have been done 5 or 6 years ago.
Justin, what would happen if we did that?
The price of oil would skyrocket. The American economy would be bankrupt, but people like Mr. Simmons would be making money off of the war.
All right, we got to go. Thank you. Wayne Simmons, Justin Raimondo, thanks for joining us. We'll have you back. Here's something you have a right to know about the Constitution. Article 1, Section 8 gives Congress the power to declare war. This was done so that the president could fight short-term defensive actions if necessary, but would not engage in endless military conflicts. As it turns out, though, Congress has only formally declared war 5 times, the last time being World War II. The rest of our conflicts have tended to be military actions or vaguely defined police activities. Our gradual acceptance of this shift from formally declared war to war at the president's discretion makes it all too easy to make war without anyone really being accountable. It also makes possible what we have now, war without end. When do Democrats and Republicans join hands and actually agree? When much needed and long overdue military cuts impact their districts. Our Freedom Fighters panel is on that. Charlie Gasparino, Carolyn Heldman, Gerald Celente, here next. Politicians on both sides of the aisle are suddenly preaching fiscal responsibility. But when Secretary of Defense Robert Gates recommended this week common sense cuts in the Pentagon's budget that would jeopardize some jobs in Virginia, he got an earful from that state's, quote, Republican governor and from both of its, quote, Democratic senators. Reasons for the quote in a moment. As long as our elected officials only worry about votes rather than fiscal responsibility, do we have any hope of fixing this financial mess? To our freedom fighters, my friend and Fox Business colleague, senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino, Occidental College political scientist Carolyn Heldman, and trends analyst Jerry Celente. Charlie, to you first. Does it make any difference that the Defense Department wants to cut 2% of its budget? We know they howl in Virginia because that's where the jobs are. But big picture, from the economy, will it mean anything?
I don't think you should be cutting defense spending right now. I have a real problem with destimulating the economy in this period. I'm not saying we should go out and spend money like drunken sailors, but I think there's, right now, destimulating the economy.
Wait a minute.
While we have 9.5% unemployment.
If the government took in less money and let you and Carolyn and Jerry and everybody that's watching us have more money in their pockets to spend as they want, that would stimulate the economy.
I agree, but I'm not in favor of basically slowing down the economy at this point.
Carolyn, should the Defense Department budget be cut by 2%?
Yes, Judge. I think this is where liberals and libertarians will come together. You know, Dwight Eisenhower, over 50 years ago, warned us about the expansion of the military-industrial complex, this massive self-perpetuating behemoth. And if we can't get this defense spending under control, we can't get the deficit under control.
Do you want defense spending under control, Carolyn, because you think the military-industrial complex is too big, too strong, and a threat to our liberties, or for economic reasons?
For both, Judge. Under the last administration, President Bush did increase discretionary spending 48%, much of that military spending.
Are we in a war?
And I think that we could be a lot. Well, we're in two wars that we shouldn't be in.
All right, good point.
We're in two wars we shouldn't be in.
Jerry, does it make any difference, 2% in a budget that's $600 billion?
2%'s chump change. What are we looking at? $20 billion a year? $20 billion a year, and we're looking at a defense budget when you have defense-related spending off the defense budget. We're talking, Judge, $1 trillion a year. I'm of the belief that that money has to come back. This is corporate welfare. When you look at Afghanistan, for example, you have more military contractors there than you have U.S. soldiers. This isn't. Carolyn mentioned Dwight D. Eisenhower.
Right.
There's also Major General Smedley Butler, the most decorated Marine in history.
Who said war is a racket?
He said war's a racket.
Now, do you not want to cut the defense budget? Hang on, because you think we are in danger, or because you think it'll stimulate the economy?
Both. I mean, listen, we're at war, right? First off, we're at war. Remember that.
Well, we're winding down one of them. The president's going to leave 50,000 troops there, and he says we're going to be out of the other one in a year.
Who knows what's going to happen tomorrow? So we're at war still. That's number one. Number two, we have a very, very, very tenuous recovery. I wouldn't even call it a recovery now. We may be slipping back negative.
Do you really think that by spending money on tanks and bullets that we destroy, we stimulate the economy?
There are jobs associated with this, and as you said, in Virginia and where else, and where else they're cutting. And by the way, think about it, 2%. Well, if it doesn't mean anything, why do it? And by the way, I don't see Carolyn or anybody else talking about cutting other parts of the budget.